That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, hang on a minute. I wrote that bit. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Very good afternoon from here in the UK, from my home office. Max here at GHI. Welcome from me and from the GHI team. First and foremost, we hope you're all keeping well and that your loved ones stay well, and that you're making it through what is proving a very traumatic and difficult period for our industry. This is the home office. There you go. Also doubles up as a bedroom. To give it its true title, it's my wife's bedroom, and I think I'm just a tenant, so I better move on and deliver this video message before I get kicked out. Right, okay, so today would have been the second day of our reorganised 13th Asian GHI conference. Somewhere in some parallel universe, we're about to go up to the Sky Bar on the 40th floor of Marina Bay Sands on a beautiful sultry night, looking out over the skyline, sipping a Singapore Sling. If someone's got the passkey for that parallel universe, can you please let me know? Drop me a line, put a note after the video. I'd love to be there right now. Like me, I'm sure that lockdown is proving challenging. Just thought I'd do a video message and talk you through some of the big news from this week's GHI COVID-19 Aviation Weekly. Myself and the team very much hope that you're enjoying the weekly easing service, looking at COVID-19, latest developments and best practice sharing. Please leave some comments after this video and let us know what you think, what you like, what you'd like to see more of in future issues. Okay, so now by the miracles of technology, where's Frank when you need him? Hopefully I won't need you, Frank, but I'm gonna now, if I can, he says, share my screen. So you should now see, be rid of my ugly mug and be watching the screen. I just wanted to highlight some of the big news stories that have cropped up over the past week, and some of the features on this week's issue of the COVID-19 Aviation Weekly. First and foremost, Swissport, the world's biggest ground handler and a real barometer for how devastating the COVID-19 pandemic is proving. As a financial statement, Swissport reporting its 2019 results. And on the whole, as Swissport state, a very solid year and robust performance over the course of the year. Obviously, a lot of the focus, though, drops to the last couple of months of that financial period to March 31st, and looking at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Really interesting status here, and Swissport has, as you'll see on the screen, as showing with my mouse, that might help. It's talking about its liquidity and the need to go to raise more cash. Swissport will be looking to do that through investors, through help from the Swiss government, and very confident that it will raise the liquidity it needs to pass through the reduced volume period that it's experiencing, like so many others, as a result of the pandemic. 80% drop in revenue for April and May. I mean, absolutely devastating. Swissport, emblematic really of other ground handlers. It is the biggest, but everyone is feeling this. And certainly in our GHI COVID-19 survey, that result also reflected people seeing a huge drop off in revenues and trying to switch in to cargo to try and keep the business ticking over. Swissport, again, like so many, has had to implement a series of drastic cost-cutting measures. Just around 20 or so percent of Swissport's pre-pandemic workforce are currently active. Massive. And again, they're not unique. It seems to be in our survey, we found around about a quarter of ground handlers and airlines had made redundant around 80% of their workforce, or furloughed or laid off. Swissport making about 10,000 employees redundant. Another 40,000 have been placed on furlough or short-term working, and being in touch with the guys at Swissport, letting us know that's mainly high-volume frontline positions, and only where they can't secure that government support in the form of furlough or other financial aid. And certainly handlers across the board looking for more governmental support to help them through this crisis, as are airlines. The interesting story, pick it up more in the easing. You can see more details on that piece, including some statements from Swissport, and I recommend you do that. I'm now going to move on and let's talk about some brighter news. certainly regards the renaissance and recovery of our aviation sector. AirAsia started to implement domestic services again in Malaysia. A lot of our Asian colleagues are the first to experience this pandemic. They're furthest along the curve. Really interesting to see some of the measures that AirAsia has introduced and implemented to try and enforce social distancing, to try and build up passenger confidence. Really instructive stuff. I recommend, if you're a handler, airport, fellow airlines, just take a look at the video link that is within our story in this week's Easy, and you can see some of the activity that AirAsia has implemented. Passengers boarding across the jet bridges 2 meters by 2 meters apart is a shape of what is to come and what will happen in this interim period once that routes start to open up again. Also, heavy investment, aircraft fitted with hospital grade air filters to try and rid us of virus spores, and just try, I think also is obviously a measure to reassure passengers that we're doing everything we can as an industry to combat this virus. That's going to be crucial, and I think as I go on to talk about in my comment piece, really could be a business differentiator for the most successful handlers and the ones that rise up quickest out of this coronavirus crisis. Why have I got a spider in here? Okay, so we've got, I hope there's no arachnophobes watching. You might want to look away now. I should have warned you earlier. So this little fella, this is the diving tarantula. Any Australian delegates, probably you already knew this. This guy is based up in the Northern Territory, and every season their homeland is flooded. And these guys have to go down into the soil, into their burrows when the flood comes, natural disaster. They curl up, and as you probably can see in this bottom picture, they're submerged in the water. Why am I talking about this? What's the link to aviation? Well, spiders don't have gills, as you probably know. They're not fish, and by all means, they should expire and die, never make it back up again. But they stay in that water, underwater, for 2 or 3 months, come back and up again when the flood recedes. Why? Because they've adapted. They've got a really clever development, biological development in their hairs that cross their body. They emit a sort of a mercury-like substance, creates a film, and that generates a sort of oxygen bubble all the way around the spider whilst it's underwater. So it's a capability of breathing, even though it's underwater, doesn't have gills, surrounds itself with this little oxygen bubble, and it can breathe. It is a great survivor. Its habitat was taken away, torrential rain, it's a force majeure, it adapts and it survives. Big lesson there for handlers. We need to, and airlines too, and airports too, not just handlers, but we do need to generate that survival mechanism over the next few months as far as we possibly can. How do we do that? What's the equivalent of that little spider's air bubble to make it through? Something I've looked at in the comment piece. You may have different opinions, but just to throw a few ideas to throw out there. This is going to be about proactivity and the handlers that step up and deliver solutions around social distancing, airlines too. But let's look at handlers. They need to be proactive, working with airline partners, dynamic solutions providers. Is this the opportunity right now, the burning platform, to look at technology to help us? Will we be getting apps, for example, that give a dedicated check-in slot time to a passenger arriving at the airport where they can come up, we check them in with a smile, send them on their way, no more long queues out into the airport car park. It's just a slick, efficient check-in process, limited opportunity for interaction and virus exchange. PPE, AirAsia recommended all passengers bring their own PPE while travelling through the airport. That's mandatory. People are going to forget, guys. You know what it's like. There's always one or two who forgets. So will we be offering free at the point of service PPE? Could you brand it? I'm not sure, but I think certainly to be seen as being proactive and restoring that passenger confidence that it is safe to travel in the air and we're doing everything we can to protect them has got to be a business winner. Could be a great opportunity for ancillary services. I was reading a report from McKinsey and company report looking at ancillary services, and there's around about an extra 18 billion that could have been generated through ancillary services, and that was pre-COVID-19 pandemic. Now, will car passengers be more likely to book themselves into the airport lounge? Will they be looking at speedy boarding? You would have thought that there will be that impetus and that willingness to pay for services that provide them with that degree of protection or perceived protection from networking with other passengers in cafes and bars, and just ensuring their own personal safety as they see it, whether it's valid or not. There'll be that willingness to upgrade and to pay for additional services, perhaps. GSE, Well, let's go out onto the ramp. Obviously, adjustments there in the way that equipment may well be designed. Will you be needing that passenger seat in the pushback tug? Certainly, perspex screening is going to come into play. The whole movement around the aircraft, the synergy of the turnaround process. If a team of 4 has to maintain social distancing, it's an interesting concept to look at. How it will pan out, we will see that only in time. But certainly, this whole episode is a chance to look at the efficiency of the turnaround process. How might we look at things like lean and lean manufacturing techniques, which talks about the 7 wastes, over processing, defects, waiting time. How slick is that turnaround process? Because every second and every bit of efficiency is going to count when we come back and start our operations up again. Also key to talk to your suppliers, your equipment suppliers, your IT suppliers, about how you will be looking to adapt equipment and some of the challenges you might face. Talking to the airports too. They're the guys responsible for the physical premises that you're working in, and the pressures that we're under as handlers and airlines, they'll be under too, trying to maintain that social distancing. How do we do it? So I guess there's never been a more important time for us to come together and talk. And never has that been more difficult to achieve by the fact that many borders are closed down. We can't leave the country. You can't leave the country. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But don't worry, we've come up with a solution. Delighted to say that GHI will launch our brand new webinar service in partnership with the guys at JBT. And thank you to all our colleagues there at JBT for supporting this first debate. It is going to be based around the response and our survival kit for the COVID-19 crisis. This would have been a session that we'd held in Singapore, would have been held yesterday, and probably was in that parallel universe. But we can't do that, but we want to hold this session anyway and get you guys together and get you talking. So we're going to hold this seminar session on the 28th of May. There will be a link in this newsletter where you can register for the session. It's free to attend. We encourage you to come along, to come in from your home office and dial in, and we will be inviting panelists there from JBT, from AirAsia, from SATS, and from Brendan Sobey, an analyst for Sobey Aviation, to talk about the market there in Asia, the adjustments we're seeing in terms of social distancing, and the way that operators are coming back online and looking to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. Again, a link to sign up if you can't find it, if you want to attend, and drop me a line. I'm on max@groundhandling.com. Be on the 28th of May. More details to follow. I hope you've enjoyed this. You haven't got sick of my dulcet tones. I'm about to go. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the session, whether you'd like to see it repeated. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you again soon. Looking very much forward to that. Look after yourselves. Take care.